Strangest unsolved cases around the world, starting in Australia. In August of 1994, a fisherman was on the Hawkesbury River when he felt a strong tug against his fishing net, but what he pulled up was a heavy piece of steel shaped like a crucifix, and attached was the remains of a human. The police discovered it was a man's body that had initially been covered in plastic and intentionally arranged on the crucifix, which had been custom built and would have been too heavy for a single person to lift and dump in the river. There was no matching missing persons report, and because he had been in the water between 6 and 12 months, his fingertips and facial features had eroded, so his identity remained unknown. Until 2018, when advances in DNA technology identified him as Max Tansevsky, but despite now knowing his identity, his case remains unsolved.
The unsolved case of D.B. Cooper. On Wednesday, November 24th, 1971, a man boarded a plane heading from Portland to Seattle. All he brought with him was a suitcase and a paper bag. Midway through the flight, Cooper handed a flight attendant a note and told her he had a bomb. He instructed the flight attendant to sit down next to him and he showed her the bomb. In the suitcase were 4 sticks of dynamite and a bunch of wires. He then told her to write down his demands and take him to the pilot. He wanted $200,000 in $20 bills put in a backpack. He requested 4 parachutes, 2 front chutes and 2 back chutes, a fuel truck to immediately refuel the plane when they land, and not to try anything funny or he'll set off the bomb. When they landed in Seattle, Cooper traded the passengers for the items he had requested. He then told the plane to take off and head for Mexico City, but to fly below 10,000 feet. Shortly after the plane had taken off, Cooper opened the rear doors and jumped out of the plane somewhere near the Washington and Oregon border. 9 years later, a boy found a brown paper bag with $20 bills that matched the serial numbers of the money given to Cooper, totaling $5,800. Until this day, Cooper and the remaining money are still missing.
The greatest conspiracy theories of all time. Are these fact or fiction? We may never know. It's been 50 years since Neil Armstrong allegedly landed on the moon. But my sources tell me the US government, eager to beat Russia in the space race, faked the lunar landing. People in 1969 could barely watch TV without a 5-foot antenna. You think they're landing on the moon? Doubtful. Was JFK killed by the CIA, the KGB, the Mafia? Could be all of the above. Or it could be none of the above. Did Jeffrey Epstein actually take his own life? Or was it the act of a few famous individuals he had compromising information on? Yes. Has the government suppressed information that reveals the Earth is actually a flat, infinite plane? Obviously not. Did the mysterious Malaysia Airlines flight just vanish into thin air? Or was it digitally hijacked by hackers who rerouted the plane to Antarctica? Your guess is as good as mine.
The strangest unsolved mysteries from each state. Today, by popular demand, we have Maryland. This is a picture of Daniel Beckwith, who hired Askia Kafra to dig these unexplained, mysterious tunnels deep in his basement of his home in Bethesda, Maryland. And one day, the police get a call that there's a fire in Daniel's house. So when they arrive, they see Daniel standing outside of the house. And when the fire investigators go and investigate, they find this hole in the concrete floor of his basement. And so when they explored a little more, they find Askia's body down there. The detective said that these tunnels were at least 20 feet below the surface and at least 200 feet long. Daniel was not doing this legally, and he knew that he had Askia working in very unsafe working conditions. Again, not legal. Daniel claims that he picked up Askia from his house in Silver Spring, Maryland, and then drove him to Manassas, Virginia, which is very close to where I live, with these darkened blackout sunglasses on, so that he wouldn't know where he's going. But according to the police, he never actually did that and just drove him to his house in Bethesda and only let him take off the sunglasses once he was in the basement. And Daniel was charged with involuntary manslaughter. Do you think he did it on purpose?
Strangest unsolved mysteries from every U.S. state. Part 17, Washington. This is the story behind Jason Padgett, a heavy drinker and partier who became a mathematical genius overnight. In 2002, Jason was a furniture salesman, and he partied hard at the bar every single weekend. One night, Jason was savagely attacked outside the bar and was left with a severe concussion. When Jason recovered, he found that he was able to easily visualize the most complex of mathematical and physical concepts, something that even other mathematical geniuses struggle with. Before that, Jason hadn't even done college math. Doctors have no explanation for why his brain just randomly decided to evolve, and they say it was like he was struck by genius.
This woman received mysterious calls for months before something terrible happened. In 1980, Dorothy Jane Scott began receiving threatening calls from an unidentified man. It got so bad she started taking karate classes and contemplated buying a gun. But then on May 28, 1980, co-workers witnessed her car recklessly speeding out of a parking lot. The next day, her car was found burning in an alleyway with no one inside. Then a week after her disappearance, her parents began receiving mysterious phone calls from a man that were too short to be traced. They got a phone call almost every Wednesday afternoon. This went on for 4 years, until Dorothy's skeletal remains were found buried along with the bones of a dog. After her remains were recovered, her parents received one last phone call from the man who said, "Is Dorothy home?"
Some of Hollywood's greatest conspiracy theories are these cap or fact. We may never know. Rumor has it Stevie Wonder may not be blind. If he was, how could he perfectly operate this camera? Sources say O.J. Simpson could be Khloe Kardashian's father. The chemistry here is off the charts. And if Tupac died, why was his photo taken one day after his alleged murder? Is Nicolas Cage really just a Civil War era vampire? Most likely. Is Jay-Z just a time traveler from the Harlem Renaissance? Most likely, yes. And did Gucci Mane really go from running the trap to running track? Or was he cloned in a Georgia jail cell? Who knows?
3 theories about 3 well-known brands. Theory 1. Starbucks employees are told to intentionally misspell your name so you share a picture of your cup on social media, and when you post it, you're just giving them free advertisement. Number 2. Dasani, which is owned by Coca-Cola, is considered one of the worst water brands out there. Why is that? Well, there's a theory that they add salt and other chemicals to their water, thus making you more thirsty, so you will buy more water. Next time you're at a movie theater, sports game, or amusement park, see what kind of water they sell. Chances are it's Dasani. Theory number 3. Well, this one's not really a theory, but it's more of a fucked up fact. Nestle started out as a baby formula company. And in the 1970s, when Nestle was trying to grow its baby formula market around the world, they paid fake medical professionals to promote their formula. In Asia and Africa, Nestle hired saleswomen dressed as nurses to give out free medical advice and free samples of formula. These samples lasted just long enough for mothers to stop producing milk naturally, which resulted in them becoming dependent on the formula.
Alright, a lot of people have requested I do this, so here's the mystery of the Pan Am Flight 914. This is probably one of the most bizarre mysteries I have ever heard of. On July 22nd, the flight Pan Am 914 was departing from New York to Miami. It was carrying 57 passengers and 4 crew members. There was nothing unusual about the flight, and it took off at its scheduled time. But then, it lost signal midway through the flight. And there was no indication that anything went wrong, there was no crash, no bodies found, and they just said that okay, it probably crashed in the ocean. Now this is where it gets fucking crazy. After 37 years, it landed. Juan de la Corte, this man made contact with the plane 37 years after it went missing. The pilot literally said, "We are Pan American Airways Flight 914 from New York to Miami with a crew of 4 and 57 passengers. We were scheduled to land at 9:55 a.m. on 2nd July 1955.